Howdy folks, welcome back. The pictures in this video come from the last of 3 images that I got out of one of the libraries, and this is another one that I'm not going to post the link on. It's too important and I just don't want it to disappear. A couple things I've been wanting to say. Unfortunately for a lot of people, they don't have large high definition screens to watch this on. A lot of times they're watching it on their phones or their iPads. And I'm sorry for that. I really wish you could see what I'm seeing on my high definition monitor. It's amazing what's there, and it's amazing how much you miss when you're not on something like this. So here is an image of something that's originally it looked just like another piece of the hillside, but it doesn't take too much of imagination to realize that you are looking at a vessel right here. This is a vessel that is broken in half, and on the front side, it's not only broken in half, but it's a little bit twisted, so the back part of it is up in the air. Now you can see where the gun is on top of that platform there, and the platform itself is raised up off the top of the actual vessel itself, and then the back half of this ship is twisted, broken in half and twisted up, and it's pretty clear. And this is what we see, or what we have seen over and over, and there's more to come, believe me. These have been the most amazing pictures, and by the way, the pictures make the pictures. A lot of people are giving me saying, oh, great job, fantastic, and all that. And I appreciate that. I really do. But, I can't do it without good pictures. The pictures are what make it. And, this is one of the few times when you don't actually have to try and squeeze out every little bit of resolution. There have been times when I've spent hours, days, weeks on one single picture. Just trying to get that resolution out, but this is all here. It's pre-made for me. I just have to pick them out and point out what I'm talking about. But this is one more ship. Look at that. It's big, and you can see the tail fins on the back. Now, then we have other things, and this is something I saw sticking out of the cliffside. And I've seen these types of things before. And you see that white box there? And it looks like there's a hose, actually, or a line that goes from that box up to that missile-looking thing. And actually, I've seen this before. I saw another missile-like thing sitting there with a white box that was connected. So I don't know what that is. So I would guess that even after the calamity, that this is freshly set up. This isn't something that just landed here and it's been sitting here for millions of years. This has been set up. Now, what is that? It reminds me of what is that in Star Wars? Those little race car thingies they were driving. What do they call those? I can't remember now. Pretty cool looking. Looks just like it. Now here's something up on the hilltop that is large and hollow, and it had a couple holes punched in it. Just another example of what you think is hillside or cliffs or whatever. None of this is anything but man-made. From top to bottom, virtually everything you see in all of these pictures is man-made materials, except for maybe some sand. Now, here's a couple drones. They are ever present, and just got a couple pictures of them. You'll see them throughout. Some people thought it was something on the lens, and in fact, I thought it was something on the lens myself originally. But you start seeing them in all sorts of different angles and views, and you realize that it couldn't possibly be just on the lens. Now, folks, here is another crashed, destroyed vessel on the top of this cliffside. And you might have a hard time seeing it right now, but that round circular thing there is a turret. Now, I showed you previously, several videos ago, a warbird that was destroyed that had a turret on it. This one does as well. And this thing has been ripped open, and it doesn't look like there's much left on the inside. It's just the hull for the most part. And then where that big white thing on the right hand side is sticking out, previously in my, or not in my, but in the video that I did with the warbird, there's actually a big gun mounted on a ball, like a little ball turret. And at the top of the screen there, and where that hull is ripped open, you can see a pattern there, like a gridwork pattern. I think that's how they put things together. No large sheets of metal, lots of little ones. And just another example. And they are numerous. And as I've said in the past, I've had a lot of these I don't even bother showing because they are underwhelming. I know they're there, they're buried, whatever the case may be. So I don't always show them. Now here's an unusual thing sitting here. I don't know what it is. Looks like a Tic Tac, maybe with a window on the side. Seems to be a golden color. Now I threw this picture in. It's a little hard to look at, a little hard to understand. But in the middle of the screen where it looks like boulders on top of something there's something that's coming out of that hole, and it's as if it's melted. It's flowing down the hillside. Do you see that? What in the hell is that? Now we know it's not fluid. Is it melted metal that was molten at one point and just ended up there? I don't know. Here's what appears to be a little flying saucer. And some other stuff. Can't tell what it is, and that's the way it always is. It's there. Things do come along that have certain shapes. And by the way, speaking of shapes, this picture is one that you all are probably familiar with. We've seen portions of this picture a lot. I'll get back to that. Look at this thing here. Now, does that not look like the front end of the shuttlecraft? Or maybe a DC-9? Like an old DC-9. And the front of it's been busted out a little bit. Maybe that was a window up there. I don't know. But there it is, coming out of the middle of the hillside. Sound familiar? Everything you see here, except for the sand, is man-made, and including the sides of those hills and the bluffs and everything. That's not rock. None of this is rock. But yeah, this picture, towards the end I'll have an image that you'll recognize, and it's something that a picture that I've taken a run at I don't know how many times to try and get better clarity. And with what was available, I was never able to do that. But in this picture, there is plenty of clarity, and I can zoom in on it, and you'll recognize it. And if you're like me, you'll probably be amazed. I noticed just recently another YouTuber found this picture and put something up about 4 or 5 days ago. I was surprised. I hated to see that, but that's okay. It's all about getting the pictures out for people to see. Now look at this up on the hillside, folks. This was on the picture at the beginning. What does that look like to you? Because I'll tell you what it looks like to me. It looks just like an airplane. And that's the thing. We're so used to talking about high tech and space and flying saucers and this and that. This comes from a different era. We've seen a couple other aircraft, not as clear as this one. But This was a very long time ago, and a very long time ago they were flying airplanes around. Now, look at the big bulbous canopy on that thing. That's not something that you would see necessarily on Earth, but they have much thinner atmosphere, I think, and so the aerodynamics are different, and so they tend to have these bulbous front ends on all of their fuselages. And look at the tail fin. There's a marking on the tail fin. I couldn't bring it in. I don't know what it says or what it looks like, but clearly there's a marking on the tail fin there. Wouldn't that have been just so special if we were able to bring the picture of that in? If I could have cleared that up, man. And not unlike most of the time, we're looking at stuff we don't even know what it is. Here's something that it looks technical, it looks technological, and it looks like it had a cover on it, and the cover fell over backwards and left it exposed. Very interesting looking. Don't know what it is. And by the way, I recently started using a filter, and before I did all of the I changed the pictures myself, but now I've been using this filter, and it does kind of change the colors quite a bit, but it sure does help on the clarity. Brings things out and defines things as well. So you're going to probably start seeing a little bit more of that filtering going on. This looks like a flying saucer to me. It's got a ring around it. It's got a hole in it as well, and the ring around the outside edge remains. And this is down at the bottom of the cliff. And doesn't that just look like, we could call it an entrance. I don't know if it's something that anybody uses, but it looks like it does go back in there. And it does look like, the hull where it's put together in segments. And here's something up on the hill. We have another drone here, close up. And look at the coming in from the 9 o'clock position. Look at that thing. Does that look like a windshield right there? Like a tinted windshield? I just want to know who brought Mom's Aerostar minivan here and got it up on Mars. With the tinted windows. Look at that. What else could that be? Couple more sets of drones here. And dead center here. This is another broken down vessel. It doesn't take much imagination to envision a vessel here. And when you look at the right side of it, originally, I think, gosh, they just look broken in half. But, really, it looks more like it was cut in half. That edge is so straight. But look at the gun on the top and the down towards the front of that thing. It's amazing. You have to go back and look a little more closely. Now, here's something up on the hilltop. And if you look at this flat area that's been exposed, none of that is earth or rocks. It's all man-made stuff. It looks like about a 20 or 30 or 40 foot ledge that's been exposed up there. And the front of this that thing reminds me of the front end of some other vessels that I've seen, pointy like that. Also, there's something else up there, and then once again, you see a pointy, smaller vessel there laying on its side, tilted our way a little bit. That's what it looks like to me. And that's another thing, the shapes of these things they remind me very much of ships, as in ocean-going vessels, because they always have that same shape, the pointy bow and squared off in the back. And whether it's triangular or semi-triangular, it's always the same. So I know Chris White has found a lot of broken down old ships and buried and so on and so forth. And I wonder, are they actually ships, or are they more of these kinds of vessels? There's an image coming up that's going to show you a hull. It looks like a ship's hull to me. And if you've been watching the videos, you might have seen some more that look like, ships' hulls, like like a ship. So I don't know. Don't know what to expect. This is just what looks like a bunch of junk. Now, coming in from the 9 o'clock position, is there something sticking out there? It looks like a tank with a bent gun and a rangefinder mounted on the gun, just like like tanks here. Now, it's kind of a stretch, and I didn't really focus on it much. And to me, that looks like a large hex nut. That's some kind of a big actuating arm there, and it's held on by a very large hex nut. Now, this is the surface in the background there, and it goes back as far as you can see. And it's obvious that this whole entire area is covered with debris. Look at that expanse. All of that metal. Look at that. How many more millions of years is it going to take for this stuff to erode down? Now, there's just so much there. So this is, you see these airplanes and all this broken down humanity, all this destroyed civilization. And it was once strong. It was once a very busy place. But certainly no more. So it is the end of whatever era this was back then. And I think it's millions of years old. But what do I know? That's just my very best guess. A couple more drones in the sky. And look at this thing over here on the left-hand side. Some of you may recognize that. It has been seen before. We don't know what it is. It's really even hard to imagine what that could have been. It's so strange looking. And then the support coming out of the ground and holding onto it, whatever that is. I think that's the most commonly used word in my videos. Whatever words, plural, whatever that is, I don't know. Sometimes you can kind of tell. Look at this thing sitting on the rock way in the back there. Or, I'm sorry, it's not a rock. Sitting on whatever it is sitting on. And you see that, that flowing shape that goes left to right? This is also a familiar shape that we've seen on a lot of what appear to be flying vessels of some kind or another. It's the exact shape. Seen it many times. Looks like there's daylight through this one too. It looks like it's sitting on the bridge of a ship. So to think that there were once people climbing in these things and flying them around, I mean, think about that. Often we forget about the human side of all of this stuff that we look at. I mean, well, I want to say what was going on there back then, but it's the same thing that's going on here now. That's one thing I've learned over the years, that people don't change. The years go by, the technology changes, but people remain the same. Look at all that metal. Look at that. Isn't that just the most unusual thing you've ever seen? Now this thing here looks like some kind of a bunker. It reminds me of a World War II bunker. There was an old movie, what was it called? The Guns of Navarone. It looks like the same thing. They had these great big huge guns, big giant cannons in there that they were using to lob shells in. But that's exactly what that looks like. Now, was this once on top of a ship? Was this built here to be here? Pretty obvious. Now, this is what I was talking about. This looks like a ship's hull, does it not? It looks like it's broken cleanly in half, actually broken or cut in half, and the inside of it's painted white, or white in color anyway. And that looks like a ship's hull to me. Now, that's not to say that it didn't used to have a top on it and it, was flying around. It just looks like a ship's hull. Look at this thing on the coming in down from the 11 o'clock position. Okay, it's quite large. It looks like a great big bug, doesn't it? Almost like a praying mantis, sort of grasshopper sort of thing. I don't think that's what it is, but that's what it looks like. Something else here destroyed. This also looks like one of those beetles, with the big pincers in the front. Kind of scary looking. Looks like it was blown off the top of some kind of vessel. Okay, this is a picture that everyone's familiar with right here. Look at that thing sticking out on top. Can I tell you how many times I tried to get this picture like this cleared up? So many times. I was never able to do it, but with this you sure as heck can, so I moved right in on it. It was so satisfying to see this. And a little disappointing because I was expecting more. This just looks like wreckage. I thought maybe it was a crane or something at one point. But yep, we've been looking at this picture for a long time. I'm just glad I found it in this image. Hard to say what that could be the remains of. So I'll be making more videos on these areas. There's still a lot to see, folks. So we'll be coming back. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.